you like to say marriage is a partnership. And I believe that when we marry someone, we've seen something in them that is beneficial to us.
The whole idea behind matchmaking, because you're saying that girl will make a good wife for my son. The voice of a parent, a child's decision for a life partner is still important. A parent means well, because we always want our children to touch the sky. One of the things that strikes me is us adults, and I'm one of them, we tend to believe that because you are in the life of this child, your judgment is perfect.
It's perfect, it's final.
Parents and leaders generally, we have a challenge. We think authority has to roar. You don't have to be loud.
I think conversely, even as parents, as you pray for yourself, find trusted people that you can share your concerns with, because you too are clouded by emotion.
100%, yes.
Hello and welcome back to our channel. This is Reality Check. We care for hearts and minds when we have conversations regarding your mental health. And the goal is to empower you with truth, with facts, with stories and conversations that enable you to take care of yourself or take better care of yourself. And the areas that we tend to focus on are marriage, relationships, family, and the workplace, but also just you as the beautiful individual that you are. My name is Rachel. I am your host, and I'm joined by Dr. Yves Atwine, who is the founder of International Center for Mental Health and Family Care. And she's also a trained therapist. She works alongside a team of tried and tested therapists who are willing, available, accessible to support you on your mental health journey. And the practice is located in Ntinda, right next to Eliana Hotel, if you would like those details. But we usually link our contacts as well in our description box or on the scroll. So if this is an area that you need support in, please don't hesitate to reach out. Welcome to the show. Today we are going to be talking about parents or guardians having a hand in choosing a life partner for their children. So we know that there are people who watch this show who have children who are ready to settle down and get married. But I also believe that even those of us who still have 8-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 6-year-olds, think about that time, you know. What will happen? Will my child pick the right person? Will they have the right judgment? Will they be thinking soberly? But also in the event that they are not, will they listen to my advice, you know? And so we thought, let's have this conversation today on parents choosing a partner, a life partner for their children. Welcome to the show, Dr. Yves.
Thank you so much, Rachel.
Good to see you.
Sure.
So this conversation, in thinking about it, I felt maybe we could go back to a time when matchmaking by parents was acceptable. And I believe in some societies, like I think in India it still is. Let's go back to that and maybe give us a brief history on why it started or why it was necessary and maybe what the logic was behind matchmaking.
Okay, so thank you, Rachel, for having me today and talking about this very intriguing topic.
Yes.
Very difficult.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad we are having it. And I'm also glad that you mentioned that there are part of the reason we are having this is just to have a conversation, but also it goes back to our parenting, how we prepare children and promote parent-child interaction so that when it comes to such decisions on matters of life, then a parent can still participate.
Yeah.
And I'm coming to that choosing, participating.
Yeah.
But yes, to answer your question, matchmaking in some societies, yes, like India, in some cultures here.
Even here, yes.
It used to happen, but we're going to talk about how that has evolved over time.
Yeah.
But the idea was people still wanted to be together and making sure that they promote that togetherness.
Yes.
Because if you lose one I'm using rules. One of you to another culture, then you haven't really consolidated your cultural aspects. So I think that was a major thing, like we are together. But then also safety of children, because if you're my cousin and my child gets married to your child,
yes.
Then at least I know.
Yeah, I know you.
I know you.
Yeah.
You're not going to mistreat my child, or so that kind of thing, that kind of safety. So yes, cohesion, safety, and making sure that people are all together.
Yeah.
I think those were major, and what else? And then, of course, I think there was also an economic element.
Yes, I was going to ask if that was it. Yeah,
I think there was an economic element that then like cultures which have a big economic aspect around marriage, like dowry or bride price, then you know that it keeps within.
That's true.
Within you, it doesn't go out.
Yeah.
So I think I would think of those three.
Yeah.
There could be more. Yeah, but I think those three.
Yeah. And I think what I hear you saying is preservation.
Yeah, preservation of culture, yes.
Preservation of culture, preservation of economics. So if a culture has attained a certain level of wealth, they want to be able to preserve it. And I think you like to say marriage is a partnership. And I believe that when we marry someone, we've seen something in them that is beneficial to us. And I think culturally, when a family sees, there's a good girl in that community, for whatever reasons that will benefit them, they'll say, I think let's pursue the girl in that community.
Absolutely. Yeah. Actually, now that you mention it, yes, because it's the whole idea behind matchmaking. Because you're saying, I love that that person's son is good, or that daughter. Most of the time, it's the daughter.
That daughter, yes.
That girl will make a good wife for my son.
Yes.
Yeah, so that temptation for parents to, and I mean, there's some sense in it.
Yeah.
But I don't want to jump the gun.
Don't jump the gun. Let me help you jump the gun. So clearly, it seems to be a thing of the past, but yet there are still some communities that are practicing it. And I don't think it was all bad, except that now we believe in love, we believe in, romance, and I want to be able to pick this person because of what I have seen in them. So my question to you then would be, are parents still having a hand in choosing partners for their children, or maybe how has it evolved over time?
Of course, this has evolved over time. It has evolved just like all the other things, because now the world has become a global village, and we're seeing intercultural marriages. There are so many. Of course, it destabilizes the old structure, because just imagine you have that preservation of this, preservation of that. And that's how some parents, of course, and I'm a parent.
Yes.
Yeah, of adults. So I'll tell you, it's very difficult because mindset change, mindset shift is still a problem, because we still believe we can, we can choose and preserve all these things that we just talked about. If my daughter, I think it's also a natural thing, like when you've seen, like when we have little children, then people start saying, "Oh, that's my mukamwana."
Yes.
Oh, that's that kind of thing.
Even when they are little.
Yes, even when they are little. So I think it's a natural thing, but then this natural thing that we're talking about is subjected to the globalization of the world, and so it has all been affected, and now things have changed and people are marrying. Even within the same country, people are marrying from different cultures. And this is, of course, also influenced by the fact that people have gone. There's so much human interaction because people used it to be in their locations, in that community. Yeah. But now people are in universities and outside the country and everywhere. Of course, one of the things that we are still struggling with is the fact that we choose life partners from our immediate social ecosystem.
That's true.
You see, and so if I'm in Canada or I'm in the US or I'm where, then my parent might still think, no, come back and marry the person.
Yes.
But then the whole thing is, I need to marry someone I've interacted with, I've studied, I've understood what we have been talking about, the whole relational preparation. But then at the same time, we are still stuck in a world that no longer exists.
That's true.
And we're still hoping that children can still go back and marry the person you think is ideal for them.
Yes.
So striking that balance is a problem. I think it's once again, it's a mindset shift to know that, we can marry a person that our children can marry a person that they have identified, that they've interacted with, they've dated, they've probably made those decisions. So yes, parents can still participate. And honestly, the voice of a parent in a child's decision for a life partner is still important.
It is.
It is still important. But it also depends on how the values of a parent, on a number of factors. But a parent still remains a parent. The only thing that has to happen is that a child needs to evaluate. They have to be in a good place. It's such a delicate thing. You have to evaluate where the parent is coming from, but then also a number of other things like the approach.
By the parent to the child. Because depending on how a parent has nurtured their relationship with a child will depend on how they deliver their input into such a life-changing decision. This is a very big decision. I mean, parents make or support children to make decisions at different levels and all the time. But then this is very delicate. If you recall, if you allow me to take you back to parenting styles, I talked about one which is control-based. Yes.
Yeah, that parenting style which is called authoritarian. Authoritarian parenting does not allow children to make decisions at all. So children live off instructions, just instructions, rules. Now, so if a parent has that kind of parenting style, they're going to probably have a big challenge in terms of how they support their child to make a decision, to choose a partner. So they are likely to condescend. They are likely to instruct. You have to marry that person.
The other person.
There is a wonderful girl in that family.
Consider
her. But yeah, so that is likely to happen. And to be honest with you, just like with all the other areas of life, that's a very dangerous approach. So yes, so a parent still has an input in principle.
Yeah.
Again, it's subjected to the. It's the how.
Yeah.
It's the how. Have you empowered your child to make this decision, and you only come in to check whether they are okay?
Yeah. And I really would want for you to labor on that towards the end of this conversation. What a healthy way is to support your child in choosing.
Sure.
But let's pivot a little to when, let's say, your parenting style has been balanced. Because it may not be great, but you have tried your best. You have empowered your child, but your child has brought someone who you don't consider good based on values, based on how you know your child. Or maybe you feel like your child is not ready for this step. Earlier on, we had a conversation on, differences in religion. And maybe that is a big deal for the way you have raised your child, and you're saying, are you sure you want to go this direction? How do we reconcile when a parent has good reason why someone isn't good for their child, or why they feel their child is not ready to marry said person? How would you advise parents to go about that scenario?
Once again, I come from the empowerment standpoint, because ultimately we have to know the primary person in this decision-making process. It's not the parent, right? Because, can I take you to scripture? I'm just remembering scripture. When God created Adam, and later on brought Eve, and gave Eve to Adam, and said, Adam, this is the person, without getting into the wording in the Bible. And then Adam was excited, received Eve. Shortly after, they sinned.
Yes.
When they sinned, the first thing Adam did was to blame God for the woman
that he
had chosen for him. Essentially, he was saying, if I had a choice, I would have made a better
choice. Should not have tempted me. The one I choose.
It's not me, it's this woman that you have brought. And since that time, God gave us free will to choose. Now, I'm bringing it back to this conversation because when a parent chooses a partner for their child, ultimately this person is going to, their son or their daughter is going to deal with that person, not the parent.
Oh, yes.
And it shapes the whole perspective to their relationship, because if I know that probably I would have chosen a better person, or I wasn't ready, then I'm going to go thinking that I was not ready, or this was not my person. Should there be any challenge, as it will be anyway, then I'm going to keep thinking my parent really did the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Coming back to your question of if the parents sense that this is not the right person for their child, number one, maybe I should say to young people who are choosing a partner that the key thing is to make sure that your support system, your primary support system, especially your parents, are allowed into your space for these decisions. Because remember, there are emotions involved. And we always say that you can't see a full picture when you're in the frame. Right? When you are in the frame. So whenever someone is in a relationship, they're going to be framed up by the emotions.
Yes.
And emotions are not a good place to make good decisions. So sometimes you need someone who is out of this frame to see things clearly. And we've talked about red flags here. Some of the red flags people can't see because they are in the frame of love and emotions. And so your parents are likely to see something. And I'm not saying open it up for anyone to say anything, but there are certain key people. Like your parents, they always mean well. Parents, unless really we have a certain breed of people, but a parent will always want the best for their child. Now, when they are giving feedback, when they see something, we are not saying they are going to see the right things. They can also make wrong judgment. They can want a child to marry from I don't know which religion, which what, all those aspects. But bottom line is that they mean well. So I thought I would emphasize, they mean well. A parent means well, because we always want our children to touch the sky.
That's true.
You see, we want them to achieve the best. We want them to have the best marriages. So when a parent is coming in, they are not just being antagonistic. They may not deliver it well, and we're going to talk about the how, but but ultimately they mean well. So do you see how I'm going here and there before I answer your question? I'm setting a foundation. Yes. But then now, should they see something and they realize this is really serious red flag. Right? What should they do? That's what you asked me.
Yes.
Number one, pray for your child. Pray for your child. Pray for your child to get the same revelation. Because most of the time we say, I'm seeing this, but someone doesn't see it. Remember, they are the primary decision makers on matters of marriage and marriage partner. But secondly, also, I encourage parents, pray for yourselves. We need to pray for ourselves because we tend to trust our judgment so much. But you can also make a misjudgment. Yeah. You can make an error in judgment, and that's absolutely normal. And so I always say this to myself. I say this to my fellow parents, and I say, please pray for yourself. Pray that God will show you the right thing. About the person, your child. Pray for the right partner. One of the things I pray for my children is that they will not miss the God-ordained partner for them, because there's a partner for everyone. You remember there's a partner for everyone. So I pray that they will not miss that God purposed for them to marry. That's my starting point. But I pray for myself that I will also not put my own interests
on your child,
above God's, because God has a reason why they've appointed me to be a twinner's wife, you to be Mwine's wife, and all that. So, supposing he has, and I trust his decision. So I don't want to to be creative and put in my own things. No, I think they need to go here. I don't want. And so we need to pray for ourselves. And number three, when we see that, the way we approach it, don't be antagonistic. If you approach it in an antagonistic way, a child is going to be defensive and they are going to refuse to listen to you. You may be having a valid point. But the way you're approaching it, that's why I always encourage, again, I'm going to jump the gun here. That's why I always encourage parents, let's use the question form. Not the authoritarian one of you cannot marry this. And then, of course, belittle the person. Avoid that. Don't belittle their partner. Just make sure that you communicate in a way that is respectful. And then use the question form. Are you sure about this? Have you paid attention to this? Are you sure this is not important to you? Because a child is going to come to you and say, all these things you have taught me are not important.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, they challenge that. They say, what's wrong with that? I don't think this is important. I love him or I love her, all that kind of thing. But when you approach it in a very gracious way, and then you're asking questions, then a child finds it respectful and worthy of engagement. But once again, when you approach it like you're the Alpha and Omega and you're God who determined this, because they are going to ask you questions back, for instance, and say, so who is supposed to be my partner? And you don't know. And that can really block the conversation. So it's very important that it's navigated in a very wise manner, patient, prayerfully, and respectfully.
Let us say that I want to throw a spanner in the works.
That's okay. That's okay.
Let's say you have done all of that, and you know in your heart of hearts this person is wrong for my child. And the child still goes ahead and says, no, I want to marry this person. Now you're left with the burden of planning a wedding of somebody, or of a marriage that you don't agree to. How should parents proceed in that? Because this is now a very, very sticky situation. You don't approve of their spouse for obvious reasons. Maybe you even have evidence. People have told you maybe this person has been dishonest about where they come from, who they are. there is evidence to prove that this person is actually not good for your person, but your child has insisted. And now you have an adult who is saying, I want to marry this person. You're my parent. I am coming to you. I have heard you. I've heard your reservations, but I'm still choosing this person. How do you continue to be a loving parent in a scenario like that? Because it's happening.
You see, let's go back to God. He has given us all that we are supposed to do. He has told us what we are supposed to do, how we are supposed to live our lives. What do we do on a daily?
We fail him, we go the opposite direction.
We fail him, we go the opposite direction. We do all that we want to do, and he still waits for us. He doesn't discard us. He does not disown us. He doesn't. That's why there are stories of the prodigal son in the Bible. We're talking extremes, right? Should the child, you're very sure, like beyond conviction, that this thing is the wrong thing. Remember, ultimately, this person will still make a decision.
That's true.
You see? And we've seen children elope. We've seen them do all manner of things. And parents are helpless. But then, as you were sharing, I was also thinking about cases like where a parent has gone an extra mile. They are attacking the other person. They are calling the parents of the other person. I mean, like, so much. Again, remember, they are coming from a good place. But then, should you rather go that direction, or should you choose peace and prayer and wait? I love the story of the prodigal son. I was doing a little more study on it. And one of the things that came out so strong is that when this guy decided to move, I'm talking about the son, the prodigal son, he said, give me my things, give me. And then he went. The Bible says that the dad didn't follow him. He didn't. He stayed back. He prayed, he believed, he yearned, he cried, but then later on, the son came back. And when the son came back, he received him, right? He received them. And when the prodigal son returned, he was saying, he went away saying, give me. He came back, says, make me.
Yes.
Give me my things, now make me one of your servants. The humility, the all. It's very hard. I can see someone say, you shouldn't be talking about that. But ultimately, this child is going to make a decision. Some of the decisions may be right, others may be wrong. There is grace that God has given for each person, right? Now, it's hard to see your child make a wrong decision. It's very, very hard. But would you rather, where we are now, do you think if you went violent, rejecting, because some parents reject, tell this person never to come back to their homes and do all that? That's one way. But would you rather practice grace and acceptance and prayer and support? Who knows? Maybe this wrong person can be supported and they have a good marriage. That's what we are. Because I can't be here and say, just celebrate. But no, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying we have two options. We have the rejecting here, and then we have the okay, is that the decision you have made? You want to continue with that? You have realized they're going to need a lot of support. You're seeing the end from the beginning. This child is probably not seeing. They're still going to make mistakes. And to be honest with you, Rachel, I think the hardest statement I've made to myself and to fellow parents is that however much we love our children, however much we teach our children, however much, they will still make mistakes.
Yeah.
That is so hard for any parent to accept. Yeah. They will make mistakes. Every time I'm doing counseling, parenting counseling, and for instance, parents are struggling with children who are on substance abuse, who have engaged in early sex or whatever other behavior disorders that you may want to talk about. This is one of the statements I make to them. And that's the truth, that our children will still make mistakes. That's why Jesus gave us a savior, and this savior is still for our children as well. They're not he's not for adults only. You see, that grace is there for them. That grace is for them. There are second chances for them. There is a reset button, divine reset button for them, and they will still make mistakes. But are they doomed because they've made a mistake?
No.
You see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
They are not doomed because they've made a mistake. That's why grace is given. That's why mercy is given. We make mistakes as adults.
That's true.
One of the things that actually strikes me is us adults, and I'm one of them. We tend to believe that because you are in the life of this child, then you're already made.
Yes.
Your judgment is perfect.
It's perfect. It's final.
It's final.
Yeah.
And so you don't engage at a point of negotiation or, that kind of productive engagement. We don't. We want to instruct because we come from a place of authority. We have authority, but that authority doesn't mean that you have to make all the decisions for your children. I hope this doesn't sound like controversial, but the point I'm making here is we also need to approach, as parents, we need to approach this with ultimate humility, that you need to be listening to a divine power that guides, and should your child, you feel they are making prodigal decisions, right?
Yeah.
Then be there to support them. Be there to support them. Because the other choice you have is to reject them.
And I think communicate that support.
And communicate it. Tell them that, I've seen this. I may have made wrong judgments.
Yes.
I have a bit of reservations here, but I could be wrong. Just keep tabs on this. Let's have a conversation. Should you need help, I'm here to support you. Yeah. I think that's a better way of engaging with a child than to tell them, okay, you've made your decision. You've seen parents that, for instance, don't attend their children's weddings.
Yes.
You see?
It has happened. And I think maybe not to sound like, because people will come and say, people don't know what you're talking about. But I think the reasons for why parents say, I don't agree with your choice are varied. There's like the media, maybe you see things in them that you think are not good for your child. And then there's the big ones where maybe this person is divorced, they are not fully divorced from their other relationship, and now they're engaging your child to be married. I'm talking about extremes.
No, I hear you. I hear you. I mean, there are certain serious red flags that have to be pointed
addressed,
out.
Yes.
What we are saying here, Rachel, is as a parent, don't hold back.
For sure.
But also, the way you communicate will either make it an effective part of feedback, or you may miss the point.
That's true.
You see that? Yeah. I think that's where the conversation is. We are not saying, approve of your child's mistakes. No. Yeah. But if you have seen serious red flags, if you've done your research and you think this girl or this son of yours is really consumed by emotions, you're in a good place. I mean, parents, as much as possible, we need to engage. We need to be in the lives of our children and be able to do that and be able to give feedback. But pass on that information to this child. Parents and leaders generally, we have a challenge. We think authority has to roar. You have to be roaring all the time. You don't have to roar.
Loud, yes.
You don't have to be loud. You can actually call your child and say, do you know, I got this information. Are you aware of this? I found it very helpful. I engage with my nephews, my children, and all. And I thank God for that. I thank God for that privilege, for the opportunity to. I tell my children, we do tough conversations.
Oh, really?
Yes, we do uncomfortable conversations, and I thank God for it, because if we connect with our children but lack the opportunity to have those are uncomfortable conversations.
They are. Yeah.
So if a parent has that information, they need to engage with their child, bearing in mind that this is an uncomfortable conversation.
Yeah.
So you don't just throw it there, but you're going to engage with them and say, can we have this? There's something I want to share with you. And you make sure that you accord it that kind of seriousness, sensitivity, and all. You don't just bring it and say, this person you have, I've heard they are thieves or they are what. That doesn't help.
It doesn't.
Effectiveness of a message is in how it is delivered.
That's true.
Whenever I'm talking to people about effective conversation or effective communication, I tell them, the moment we know how, then we can say anything. Yeah. So it is in the how. It is in how it is communicated.
That's true. And I think, you talked about the people who are the children who are choosing being in the frame of their emotions and not being able to see clearly, and how that could potentially be recipe for you making the wrong choice. So understanding that your parents mean well. I think conversely, even as parents, as you pray for yourself, find trusted people that you can share your concerns with. Because you too are clouded by emotion.
100%, yes.
Yeah, find people that you can share this burden with so that they can also evaluate, because they are independent, they are not the parent, they are seeing clearly. So you might need that extra push to say, maybe the way you're going about it, you're going to push your child further away. Perhaps take this approach so that you keep your child within the confines of your relationship.
That's right.
That if indeed there is trouble, 3, 4, 5 years later, that child can find solace back at home.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But also, Rachel, I think one of the other things that we as parents, you see how I'm not separating myself from this conversation.
I know why
you chose it.
You are in the thick of it.
But I think the other thing is that, we don't want our children to get married and boom, they are in trouble.
That's true.
But then I'm also reminded of the fact that marriage is a learning platform.
Yeah.
And we're not also going to get perfect partners for our children because there's no perfect person.
Yeah.
And of course, us as parents, when we see a small thing in the other person, we can accommodate weaknesses in our children, not in the person who is going to marry them. But I think one of the other things is for us parents to know that our child is not going to marry a perfect person. Some of the things we see, unless they are really, really serious red flags, maybe we also have an opportunity to parent both of them, because the parenting journey never ends.
Yeah.
It never ends.
Yeah.
Should your child go against your advice, go against your convictions, and you believe they should have listened to you, your judgment is absolutely right, then should they go ahead? Should they do the prodigal thing? You still can support them.
Absolutely.
You can support them together with their partners.
Yeah.
Once again, rejecting them may not be helpful. I've seen parents who have done that. They've rejected, but then it never ends anywhere. Later on, they are trying to rework their way into their children's lives.
Because now they have grandchildren.
Absolutely, they have grandchildren. It's hard.
It is.
If you have to do it that way, then it's going to be a whole amount of work. You would rather redirect your energy to supporting them as a couple. You've seen they've started on a broken note. How you as a parent are ready to support them and build them. And by the way, that can happen. Because this is reality.
Yeah. Yes.
You see? And so you would rather do that.
Yeah, I'm reminded of something that you say often on this show, to project our lives. And I think projecting your life never ends, even though you're 50, 60 years old and you have a 25, 28-year-old who's planning to get married. project this scenario 2-3 years from now, and I know when emotions are high, all you're seeing is my child is marrying the wrong person, or they are not ready, and I must put a stop to it. And like you've said, it's like a desperate situation. You're contacting this person, talking to this one, talking at your child, and so I think it's important for you to project 2-3 years from today.
100%.
When your child maybe insists on marrying this person, they now have grandchildren. What will your relationship look like?
That's right.
There's wisdom in saying, let me swallow this pill now and ask God for wisdom on how I can support my child.
That's right.
And as we conclude, I want you to just recap what a healthy way is to support your child in choosing a partner, but also speak to the children, the 25-year-olds, 28-year-olds who are choosing partners. Apart from knowing that their parents mean well, I think there's also a part for us to play. You never outgrow your parent. You never outgrow the need for your parent. And I think as you forge your path as an adult, there's a tendency, because now you're familiar with your mom and with your dad. I saw a quote on Instagram yesterday that said, everything my mom said, she was right about it. I just didn't like her tone. But everything that she talked about, she was right about it. And I think it sucks when you realize in hindsight, after you've made so many mistakes and ignored your mom's advice or your dad's advice. So recap for us, a healthy way for parents to support their children, but also speak to the children who are in the process of picking partners. How can they incorporate their parents' advice in their choosing?
Yeah. That's right. I'm going to answer those too. Yes. But can I just say something that you reminded me of? Yeah. Number one, you talked about projecting. Project what you say now, what you do now, the amount of... Be careful. Yeah. Be careful not to break the relationship with your child, but also with the other person. You never know. A couple of years down the road, you probably need to relate with it. And I mean, that's what it is. Yeah. That's why I was talking about the father to the prodigal son. Yes. He didn't reject. He didn't curse. Nope. He didn't do all that. He waited. He waited. And when he was ready to come back, he supported him to settle back into that's really big. But talking of projection, now you reminded me of the psychological concept called projection. Yes. This can also happen when parents are... projection is basically mirroring yourself in another person. Now, this can, by the way, inform a parent's influence or involvement in the choice of a partner. If they have had challenges in their marriage, they are so highly... Yes. Makes sense. Super alert, because they're saying, don't make the mistake I made, or don't do this. Yes. I hope you don't. You've had women are very unkind sometimes. They are the ones who say this. I hope you don't you don't get a partner who looks like my husband. Like those things. Yes. So people can carry those negative perspectives or negative energy that they are just getting from their own marriage and their own experiences. And if they don't filter this, if they don't really not objective, because that can really cloud objectivity, they are going to pour that in their children's lives, and you find that they are rejecting someone because of a tribe. They are saying, those people, I married people from there. They are all like this. Yes, they are all like this, and I mean those distortions. Yeah. So parents also need to be very mindful of that you're not just projecting your troubles in the choice of your child. Having said that, I think I've already mentioned some of the right ways for parents to do this. I just want to recap. Number one, do your own self-awareness. Make sure that you're making judgment from a good place, right? If you're clouded by past experiences, you're also likely to be clashing on values or whatever, on your judgment, because you're just, once again, you're projecting. But then also, secondly, that parents need to emphasize values. Values are timeless. Yeah. If you're saying, whenever you're giving feedback to the children, let it be communicate values.
Yes.
Not tribes, not
sentiments.
These sentiments, they don't make sense, and those ones are not timeless. They are not universal. Values are universal. Values are timeless. True. So if you're getting into your child's life to guide on the choice of a partner, let it be informed by values, not biases, not all these ugly things. That's number 2. But number 3, I said, do it prayerfully. Do it prayerfully, even those who don't pray prayer at this point. Because it's a very serious junction in life. And so we need to make sure that we are guided by the supernatural. We all have weaknesses. Being a parent doesn't mean that you know everything. And so we need to rely on the divine power and guidance. And so it's very, very important that parents prayerfully and humbly participate in the lives of children, not in a condescending way, not in an authoritarian manner, because that's likely to create a backlash. I also mentioned that the way mind your communication style.
The approach.
Yeah, the approach. It's a universal way of giving feedback. It's a very universal way of giving feedback. This happens with all children and at different stages. I was intrigued recently. I traveled with a driver, God bless him. And while we were talking about aspects of humility and all, he mentioned something that adults usually do say. He said, can you imagine adults say, you can't talk to me like that. You can't talk to me disrespectfully like that. I'm not a child. And I said, oh, that's right. And he was saying, do you know that suggests that children can be talked to anyhow, anytime, disrespectfully. Yeah. So I was just saying, it's a universal of giving feedback. Don't be disrespectful. When we approach this issue respectfully, knowing that we are supporting. You come from a support standpoint, not authoritarian standpoint. Then this person is going to listen to you because communication that is empathetic, that is gracious, that is respectful, that is covered with humility is going to be received and it's going to make sense. But if you approach it introducing yourself of how you are the parent, and so this child has to listen to you, there's going to be a backlash. Like you don't need a prophet to tell you that that is going to happen, because number one, you're dealing with an adult. Now, it was wrong with a child, but now you're dealing with an adult. This is an adult that you're talking to. They are making serious decisions. They've had so many considerations. They probably have seen wider than you have seen, and they have put in so much. Do they need your input? 100%. But then how you approach it matters. So approach. I could emphasize this forever. Approach. You have a good point. Don't lose it by the way you communicate. Mind your voice tone, mind your body language, and mind the values that you're communicating, not stereotypes, not biases, cultural biases and all. You may have a good point. There's something about cultural differences, but there are certain things that transcend it. So how this gets communicated, it's going to help your child to take in your feedback and utilize it very well. Can I speak to young people?
Please.
So I want to emphasize what I mentioned earlier. when you're choosing a life partner, it's very important that you utilize your support system. We've never needed our support system like when we are choosing a life partner and then on the journey of marriage. It's very important.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, young people believe that at the time they are choosing a life partner, they don't need anyone because they are madly in love.
Mm-hmm.
And, and some of them have locked logic out. They have said, I'm enjoying blind love.
Wow.
Yeah. And they don't care. In fact, they are hoping no one tells them anything about their partner. It's natural that we want people to love and accept and validate who we have chosen. But be careful that this is a point where you need support from the most genuine people in your life.
Yeah.
So if you still have a parent, utilize them. You know, don't trash them. Don't tell them how they are too old to give you. They come from a totally different generation. Please remember that values are still values. Values are timeless. If it is respect in 1900, it is still respect now. You see. And of course, marriage is built on values, not on anything else. So don't dramatize it. Don't be consumed by love. Because love has to be shielded. It has to be cushioned. I think it's cushioned. It has to be cushioned by values because you're going to relate and your love is going to be maintained by how you relate. Relationships happen at values level. So when your parent has seen certain things, is giving you feedback, number one, know that they come from a good place. I've mixed it. But listen, please be open. Be open. We do a lot of due diligence on a number of things, but when it comes to marriage and love, we think,
I got this. I can make this decision.
No. It is okay. Listen. Now, some of the things you're going to listen to may not make sense, and it's still okay. And I can't guarantee that all the feedback your parents will give you will be valid, super, perfect. It's not, because they're also struggling. So this is going to be my second point. Please know that your parents will always be coming from a good place.
Always.
They mean well. They're going to make mistakes, but they mean well. Now, when you know that they mean well, then you're going to be you're going to be stable, you're going to be objective, you're going to evaluate it graciously. You see, we need grace on both sides. So when we know that they are coming from a good place, then you are going to see their struggles. You're going to see them struggle to give you some of the feedback. And then the way you receive it will facilitate, will also give them confidence. Now, I also want to tell young people that parents, we are so desperate for respect. I've told parents to give you respect, but I also want to ask you, please respect us. Don't trash us. You may have made good judgment. You have a good case. You have, you've selected this partner. You've evaluated so many things. Communicate it to us.
In a respectful way.
Yes. Don't block us. Don't. What do they do? Don't ghost us.
Oh, dear parents.
Children have ghosted parents because they had a tough conversation. Let me tell you, do you know that we can have uncomfortable conversations without being aggressive?
It's possible.
Yeah, it's an act of wisdom. It's an act of maturity. And at this point, I really want to encourage, if you realize your parents are losing it, they are not coming off okay, then choose to be the big person. See things from a higher place. There is something about rising above. And when you see things from a higher place, you're going to understand, oh, Bambi, my parent is just struggling. They mean well, but they're just struggling. Oh, Bambi, they are still consumed by these stereotypes. And then you're going to say, Mom, can I tell you what? That kind of respectful communication. Dad, I realize that we are not on the same page now. Can we come back to this conversation later? That kind of thing. That's going to help, because ultimately you're going to need each other.
True.
And ultimately you need your parents to also accept your partner.
Yeah.
So don't cut them off and say, oh,
it's my
because
life.
You see, it's not your life. It's not. No, there's no one who has their life.
That's true.
No, we are all depending on each other. Human nature, we just depend on each other. So whenever I hear someone, this is my life, I say, which one? Now, there is nothing like this is my life. No, that's an act of no wisdom. I'm being polite.
Yeah.
But you see, when you engage in such a way that you realize what you desired from your parent is not happening, offer it. You understand? I need my parent to respect me here and there. Respect them.
Respect.
One of you has to do the right thing.
Yeah.
So, and that always helps with all relationships, but now we are talking about this. Offer that. When you offer that, you keep the communication lines open. Right? Yeah. So when that person gets convicted, then they can come back to you and say, oh my God, I was wrong. I realized I was wrong.
Yeah.
Please make sure that you don't block communication lines. Don't. I've said it to parents. Parents also don't block communication lines. You see, the father to the prodigal son didn't block communication lines.
He stayed
open. And so we need to make sure communication lines are open, because ultimately the journey has just started.
This is true.
So if you need support from each other, you need feedback, you need to give guidance, they need it. So let's make sure that happens.
Yeah. In the multitude of counsel, there's wisdom. Yeah. So don't. This is not the time to isolate yourself.
No.
And say, I got this. I know what I want. I love this person. Therefore, I want to marry them.
I've seen young people stuck later on, and they can't go back to that wisdom.
And I would say that having been on this side of marriage, you realize that you don't want to make that decision lightly. You don't even want to make it by yourself, because the things that you experience on this side, you are glad that you made the right decision and you had counsel and you had support. Can you imagine if you had gone off rogue and said, this is my person, this is my choice, and then you're facing the things that you're facing in your marriage?
I'm looking out scripture.
Please.
Can I give it? I think it's Joshua 3.
Yeah.
Joshua 3. This is Joshua. He was talking to the children of Israel.
Yeah.
And he said to them, Joshua 3, he said to them, where you're going, you've not been there before. He said, where you're going, you haven't been there before. Yeah. And we are not saying this to scare anyone. Yeah. No. We are saying this is a new level that you're going to need a lot of guidance.
Yeah.
And so he said, be sure to be led by, to follow the ark of the Lord. That ark represents the Holy Spirit.
True.
You see? Yeah. Now, this is exactly the same thing I would say to young people. Where are you going? It's a new level. You haven't been there. Yeah. And it's a good place, but it requires a lot of guidance. And you haven't also gone to school to study how to manage that level. You're going to actually depend on the multitude of counsel.
Yes.
So this counsel is important for you. So don't isolate. Don't tell people this is your life. Like no one cares, honestly.
I know.
But it's not your life. On a serious note, it's not your life. Our lives are supported by different points. So don't block that point, especially your parents who mean well. We have very few people in this world that mean well.
That's true. Yeah.
And our parents, we can be sure they mean well. So please don't block them, don't ghost them. Keep the communication lines open.
Couldn't have put it better myself. Thank you, Dr. Evers. I think this was really helpful. As a parent of a 9-year-old, I'm gearing up in a few years, I hope I don't have to have that difficult conversation. But if I do, at least I am equipped to keep it respectful, keep the communication lines open, and project the good parts, project your life 10, 15 years from today. I still want to have a relationship with my children. And I'm hopeful that I'm not projecting my own insecurities on my child. So much to learn from this episode, and I'm curious to hear what you have picked. Do let us know in our comment section. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, share it with a friend, share it with a parent who maybe is in the thick of this experience. The wisdom shared here might be helpful. Until next week, stay well, stay healthy, and keep it reality check. Bye-bye.